Everyone told her clay would be her coffin. Then she walked out and beat Grabber without dropping a set. She pushed Ostapenko to the edge. 6 points. That's all that separated her from
Filipino athletes. Stay tuned, because this is one run you don't want to miss. Alex Eala, U.S. Open 2025 Game On.
The girl the world is just now discovering, and the ones who were there before it became cool.
Despite her talent, she faced 3 consecutive early exits in Linz, Stuttgart, and Madrid. It is a grueling stretch for any professional.
Let's talk about bandwagons. Because in tennis, few things are as predictable as the moment a young star starts winning big.
No, I feel really great. I love Madrid. It's an amazing tournament. Sí, cada vez que vengo aquí siento muy cómoda.
And suddenly the entire internet becomes an overnight expert. The comment sections fill up. The repost numbers skyrocket. Everyone has an opinion.
Play, do you think, for you and your game that makes it maybe a little bit more tricky than hardcourt, for example?
Well, I grew up on hardcourt, so not.
Everyone was apparently watching since the beginning. And in the case of Alexandra Eala, Alex, to those who actually know the story.
One thing is when you're stuck on one problem for a long time, then it's kind of repetitive and but then if you stick.
The bandwagon didn't just fill up quietly. It exploded. And when that happens, when the noise gets loud enough to rattle the walls of the sport itself, it becomes really important to slow down and ask, where were you when it wasn't this glamorous? Where were you when it was just a teenage girl from Quezon City grinding through ITF tournaments far from home, with nothing but potential and a work ethic that most professional athletes twice her age couldn't match? Because if you only showed up when the highlights went viral, when her name was trending globally, when everybody from Manila to Madrid was suddenly chanting her name, then respectfully, you were never really there for the journey. And the journey, my friends, is the whole point. Let's rewind. Because before Alex Eala was the first Filipino woman to crack the WTA Top 100, before she was the first Filipino to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal, before she was standing on the courts of Miami having just beaten Iga Swiatek, the world number 2 at the time, she was a 14-year-old kid who started on the ITF circuit in 2020, learning what professional tennis actually demands from a human being. Not the Instagram version of professional tennis. The real version. The version with brutal travel schedules, unfamiliar courts, opponents who want it just as badly, and absolutely zero guarantees that any of it is going to work out the way you've dreamed. She left the Philippines. She trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, one of the most elite tennis development environments on the planet. She won her first ITF title in 2022 in Chiang Rai. She scraped her way into WTA main draws as a qualifier. She lost in the first round of Australian Open qualifying in 2023. She fell to opponents whose names the casual tennis fan had never heard of. And through all of that, the people who really believed in her, the ones who followed her match results from tiny tournaments in places that most sports fans couldn't find on a map, those people never needed a viral moment to justify their support. They were already convinced. They were watching the architecture of something special being built brick by brick, match by match, year by year. Then came Miami in 2025, and the world changed. She walked into the Miami Open ranked 140th in the world. 140. She was handed a wild card, essentially a gift from the tournament organizers, to even get into the draw. Most people outside the Philippines had no idea who she was. And then she beat Yelena Ostapenko. Fine, upsets happen. Then she beat Madison Keys, the number 5 seed. People started paying attention. Then she beat Iga Swiatek, the woman who had dominated women's tennis for years.
I think a lot of it has to do with mentality,
the number
because
2 player in the world.
Common struggle or common experiences is, has
She
to
went
do
on
with
to
the
reach
mental
the
side of being an
semifinals of the
athlete.
WTA 1000 event as a wild card ranked 140th. As a wild card, ranked 140. The magnitude of that is almost impossible to overstate. And overnight, Alex Eala became a global story. The rankings followed. She shot into the top 100, then the top 75. The bandwagon wasn't filling up anymore. It was overflowing. And that's when a very specific kind of division quietly opens up among a player's fan base. The ones who found her in Miami are excited, loud, enthusiastic, and completely valid in their newfound love for her game. But the ones who found her years before that, they're experiencing something entirely different. They're watching the rest of the world catch up to what they already knew. And that feeling, that quiet, deeply personal sense of "we told you so," is something no later rival can fully understand. Here's what the day one supporters noticed that everyone else missed. Alex Eala's breakthrough in Miami wasn't an accident. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't the tennis gods randomly smiling on a lucky qualifier for one magical week. It was the direct result of years of unglamorous, unrecognized work that the mainstream tennis world simply wasn't paying attention to. When she walked onto that court against Swiatek, she didn't look nervous. She didn't look like a girl who was starstruck. She looked like someone who had been preparing for exactly this moment her entire life. Because she had been. The confidence in her baseline aggression, the way she owns her left-handed forehand and creates angles that force opponents into positions they're not comfortable in, the resilience in her movement, none of that appeared in Miami. It was forged in those years on the ITF circuit, in those early qualifying round losses, in those three-set battles that nobody was watching except her family, her coaches, and the small but fiercely devoted fan base that never needed the mainstream media's permission to believe in her. Now let's fast forward to where we are right now, because this story is very much still being written, and the current chapter is one of the most fascinating and revealing of her career so far. After that seismic Miami breakthrough, Eala continued her ascent. She made the final of the Eastbourne Open on grass, her first ever WTA final. She won her first WTA 125 title in Guadalajara. She finished 2025 with a career-high ranking of number 50. Then the 2026 season arrived, and she kept building. Semifinals in Auckland, quarterfinals in Abu Dhabi, quarterfinals in Dubai, where she beat Jasmine Paolini, a Grand Slam champion, for her third career top 10 victory. She reached a career-high ranking of world number 29 in March 2026. 29. From a girl who was ranked 140 going into Miami the year before, she became the first Filipino in history to break into the WTA top 30. The records just kept falling, one after another, like dominoes lined up specifically for her. But here's where the story gets real. Here's where true fans don't panic while the casual audience starts writing her off. Because the clay season has arrived, and clay has proven to be Alex Eala's most difficult challenge yet. After the hard court swing ended with all that momentum and those historic numbers, the tour shifted to the orange dirt. And the results have been humbling. She dropped to Jelena Ostapenko in Linz. She lost to Leylah Fernandez in Stuttgart, getting beaten 6-1, 6-4 in a match where the scoreline didn't do her any favors. She went down to Elise Mertens at the Madrid Open, 6-2, 6-1, and lost in doubles alongside her Turkish partner Zeynep Sönmez. From a career high of 29, the ranking slid to 41, then 42. The points from that Miami 2025 semifinal were impossible to defend, and the numbers reflected that reality with zero mercy. The commentators have started raising their hands. Former British number 1 Greg Rosetsky, to his credit, gave her the benefit of the doubt, pointing out that the losses she's taking aren't soft defeats, that the players beating her or pushing her are world-class, and that this is simply the brutal education of a young player learning what it means to sustain elite performance week after week on a surface that doesn't naturally suit her game. But not everyone has been that gracious. The narrative in certain corners of the tennis media has started to shift. The whispers have begun. Is clay her ceiling? Can she actually compete on this surface against the very best? Is this the beginning of a plateau? And here is exactly where the difference between a real supporter and a bandwagon passenger becomes crystal clear. Real supporters understand context. They understand that Alex Eala is 20 years old, and she'll be 21 in May. They understand that she's been a fully committed WTA-level competitor for barely over a year. They understand that clay is a completely different sport from hard courts and grass, and that even the very best players in the world spend years developing their clay game. They understand that the scorelines in Stuttgart and Madrid look ugly, but the trajectory, the grand, sweeping arc of this career, still points in one direction: up. Nadal Academy between tournaments to train and reset. Posting on Instagram after reuniting with her coaches there, calling it simply RNA, the best. She showed up to the Laureus World Sports Awards in Madrid between matches, representing her country on one of sport's most prestigious stages. She's building. She's grinding. She's doing exactly what the journey has always required of her. Putting in the work when the cameras aren't focused on the glamour, when the results aren't viral, when the bandwagon has gone quiet. And now the Italian Open in Rome is here, the next chapter. This is a WTA 1000 event, one of the biggest tournaments on the entire calendar, featuring a field led by world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka. It's held on clay, and Eala is walking in with only 10 ranking points to defend from her first-round exit at last year's Italian Open. That's not a threat to her ranking, it's an opportunity. Any win in Rome is a net positive. Any run she puts together is gravy. The low defensive points on offer throughout this entire clay swing mean that for the first time in weeks, every result she posts is building equity rather than trying to survive deficit. After Rome comes the possibility of the Parma Ladies Open for extra clay match reps at a lower pressure WTA 125 level. Then Strasbourg, where she's listed in qualifying ahead of the main draw. And then, at the end of it all, Roland Garros. The French Open, Paris, the Cathedral of Clay. The tournament where she made her main draw debut in 2025 and lost in the first round. The tournament she has been quietly circling on her calendar as the moment where this entire clay experiment needs to yield something meaningful. She has only 10 ranking points to defend in Paris too. Every single point she earns there is pure progress. And if the form comes together, if Rome provides the breakthrough that jump-starts the confidence, if the Rafa Nadal Academy preparation translates under match conditions the way it's supposed to, then there is no reason, none at all, why Roland Garros 2026 can't be a turning point. And here's the thing that the real supporters carry with them that nobody else does. They've watched Alex Eala do the impossible before. They were watching when she won the girls' singles title at the 2022 US Open. They were watching when she reached the ITF Junior World No. 2 ranking. They were watching when she qualified for WTA main draws as an unknown teenager. They were watching in Miami when the whole world finally caught up. They know what this girl is capable of when everything clicks, because they've seen it multiple times already, in situations where nobody was taking notes. So when the clay results look rough, when the ranking slides, when the scorelines prompt the armchair analysts to question her ceiling, the day ones simply don't flinch. They've been here before. They know what's coming. There is also something about Alex Eala, the player, that goes beyond the tennis, and the real supporters understand this dimension too. She's not just playing tennis. She's carrying a nation on her racket. When she took the microphone at a tournament this year on International Women's Day and acknowledged the women who have paved the way before her, when she talked about the WTA as a platform for women to become stars and do what they love on grand stages, when she marveled at the fact that 4 women from Southeast Asia were in the Australian Open main draw, and how that was creating an entirely new demographic of tennis fans. She was talking about something bigger than rankings and results. She's an ambassador. She's a symbol. For a country that has never had a player in this position before, she carries the weight of that representation with a grace and maturity that is genuinely stunning for someone who is still just 20 years old. Coco Gauff, herself one of the sport's brightest stars, has publicly thanked Eala for bringing an entirely new demographic to the sport. That's not nothing. That's recognition from inside the elite circle that what Alex Eala represents transcends the scoreboard. And the Filipinos who have been supporting her through every stage of this journey, through the early ITF titles and the qualifying round exits, and the growing pains and the historic breakthroughs, they knew this all along. They knew she was special before it was fashionable to say so. They carried Laban Pilipinas, fight, Philippines, not as a hashtag, but as a genuine philosophy of belief in the face of doubt. So here's where we land. Alex Eala is currently ranked around 41 to 42 in the world. She's 20 years old. She's the highest-ranked Filipino in WTA history. She has a career high of 29. She's in the middle of a clay court season that has been challenging, but is not over. She has everything to gain and almost nothing to lose in the next 5 weeks leading into Roland Garros. And behind her is a fan base split in two. The ones who just discovered her, and the ones who never needed to discover her because they never lost faith in the first place. To the new arrivals, welcome. Genuinely. Tennis is better when more people care about it. And Alex Eala is the kind of player who deserves a massive global audience. Enjoy the ride. But to the day ones, the ones who were tracking her ITF results before her name lit up a single major headline. The ones who explained to their friends who she was before Miami happened. The ones who never once questioned whether she was going to make it. This one is for you. You didn't need the viral moment to believe. You just needed to watch her play. And now the whole world is finally watching alongside you. The clay season isn't over. Rome is next. Paris is coming. And the story of Alexandra Eala is nowhere near its most dramatic chapter. This is Champions Tennisitics, and we cover the stories that matter, not just when they're trending, but when they're being built in the quiet, unglamorous spaces where champions are actually made. If this video fired something up inside you, hit that like button right now and let us know in the comments. Were you there before Miami, or did the bandwagon bring you in? Neither answer is wrong, but we want to know your story. And if you want to stay in this conversation through every match, every ranking update, and every chapter of what is shaping up to be one of the most compelling careers in women's tennis right now, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. We're not going anywhere, and neither is Alex Eala. Laban Pilipinas.
Inside her hotel at the 2026 Dubai Championships, and she could not sleep, not because of nerves, not because of match preparation, because
Everyone told her clay would be her coffin. Then she walked out and beat Grabber without dropping a set. She pushed Ostapenko to the edge. 6 points. That's all that separated